Hey YouTube, this is Rescue Smart Fan 62. Okay, Six Flags Corporation, let's talk. Now, if many of you are unaware, this past week, Six Flags Corporation announced, well, more specifically, King's Dominion announced that they are not doing Winterfest for this upcoming season. King's Dominion opens March 29th, I believe it is. So that's a little over a month and 4 weeks away. So that's around like 8-ish weeks away. And they announced no Winterfest, even though from what I've been seeing pictures of, it's still showing Winterfest stuff for passes on the website. So, and then you also look at other parks in the chain and you see stuff like Michigan's Adventure taking away tricks and treats. And then some parks don't even have their calendar up altogether, which makes you wonder, are they opening? Are they not? And then along with that, Carowinds just laid off a bunch of people. I don't know how many offhand, but they laid off a bunch of people. This unfortunately makes me nervous for this upcoming season because it seemed like after the merger in July of last year, that was when a lot of the stuff started to go downhill. So the merger happened around early July last year. It really wasn't until Fright Fest / Halloween Haunt came around, which is where stuff started to go wrong. I don't know if some of the stuff was planned pre-merger, but stuff like the IP houses they had at Six Flags Great Adventure opened up very late into Fright Fest. I think one IP opened up maybe 3 weeks into the event. The others didn't open up till essentially October. I'll get back to Great Adventure in a minute. And then you had essentially once Fright Fest and Halloween Haunt was over, that was when the bad news essentially started. So it was second week of November, which was typically when Great Adventure usually starts doing winterization in the Golden Kingdom area of the park, which is where King the Call and all them are. There was rumors going around for weeks that King the Call was on the verge of being on the chopping block. So was Green Lantern and all these other attractions. And it was unfortunately announced like 2 days after that section closed, basically saying that is true. So employees as well as people and part of the coaster enthusiasts put this event together to essentially do a send-off for these rides. And I saw the video from Hollywood Studios on King the Cause, and from what I understand, that whole weekend was very emotional because you had this ride that has been an icon for the park for almost 20 years. It was sitting there for 19 years. And from stuff I heard, the park was fighting to keep it open for this upcoming season. And the corporation was basically like, no. So that weekend of the 10th and 11th of November, they put together that weekend of basically essentially final goodbyes. And it was later confirmed that there's a total of, it looks like at least 6 or 7 attractions leaving Great Adventure. Supposedly they have a new coaster going in the site of King Ka. I hope it's something that can also go into the Green Lantern's plot too. Now, for Green Lantern, I get that ride was not the best for everybody, but it still was an icon at the park for nearly a decade. I'm putting my emotional side about that coaster where it came from before, but and then you had the other rides in the park. So you had the parachutes, which was for that season it was standing, not operating, which that ride came down during the week, 1 week during holiday in the park. And then you had their Huss ride. I can't think of what it was called. It was right by Parachute as well. Then it was also later from Daredevil Dive, which was their ride where you see these in a lot of parks where you go up, pull a cord, you come down, and you act like you're flying. So that's a total of, I think, like 6 attractions from Great Adventure alone. And last season was supposed to have been a celebration year because the Great Adventure has been around for 50 years. And it turned out to be a disaster from hell. Or birthday from hell, I'm sorry. And so they were supposed to have a coaster that was supposed to open up in the summer of last year, and it unfortunately got pushed back to this year. I think they're working to get it open for opening day or around that time. So then you had other parks like King's Dominion, that just randomly got announced Anaconda was being removed. If you don't know what Anaconda was, it was an arrow looping coaster over the lake. While from what I've been told, it may not have been the smoothest, but it was an icon for the park. Apparently, it was never really down that much. So, and then you have Carowinds. Carowinds is another park that got hit extremely hard. So they had 3 rides taken out. So they had Nighthawk, which was their Vekoma flying coaster, which came from Geauga Lake. So then they had their Intamin Drop Tower, and then they had their Schwarzkopf Enterprise. Now, when I went to Carowinds both times, both of those attractions were never really that busy. Nighthawk had a decent line, but from what I understand with Nighthawk, its main problem was it took forever for it to, get everything situated and all that other jazz. So it makes you wonder. And then it was announced essentially after the park closed for the season. A bunch of people got laid off as well. The exact number is unknown at this point, but I know King's Dominions was around 80 to 120 or 80 to 100. So I don't think Carowinds was that much, but it could have been. And then other parks in the chain that got hit was Six Flags Over Texas with their bobsled coaster, which closed right after Fright Fest. I'm trying to think. But and then so they claim for the 2026 season there is a list of parks that are going to get a bunch of new attractions. So you have Six Flags Mexico getting a Vekoma family coaster. From the way it sounds like it's something like Good Gravy at Holiday World, or Snoopy's Soapbox Derby at Kings Island. And then there's another park getting a family or a ride like that as well. And then you have Kings Island getting a family-based attraction for 2026. Now, the problem is the term family-based attraction could mean anything. And that's the main problem, is you don't know what it's going to be. And then supposedly a park like Magic Mountain is supposed to get a new coaster for 2026 that's one of a kind. So they've started teasing it late, I think right around Fright Fest of last year. And then you have essentially California's Great America in Northern California, where essentially they haven't said it outright yet, but they're starting to tease the park's demise of. So the park itself doesn't open up until sometime in April, which is normally like 2 or 3 weeks late for them, because they normally open up around mid to late March, from what I understand. And then they usually are open throughout the whole year, and then they close right after Christmas for a couple of months and redo that cycle all over again. Which brings me to Winterfest and stuff like that. They canceled Winterfest as well as Tricks and Treats, and then I don't think they're doing so it's like Cedar Fair's version of Mardi Gras in the summer. Kings Island and some other parks do it as well. But the problem I have with all of this is it's just all of this is just, I shouldn't say coming out once, but it's all of this has happened since July. And this makes you wonder just how bad this is. Because I've not heard of a chain closing this many attractions within several months span. Because the fact that Great Adventure unfortunately confirmed like 7 attractions closing, that's a huge blow to that park. And sure, you're having the one new coaster open up this year, and then stuff like, the retheme of Georgia Surfer to Georgia Gold Rusher, or whatever it's called. I'll get to that in a second. But it's just like all of this does not seem to make a lot of sense. With the Georgia Surfer being renamed, the problem with this is all this happened right after it went vertical. So essentially, the whole ride was put together, and yes, it didn't have its trains on the track yet. So now what's happened is they're having to get a whole new train, as well as repaint the whole structure for this. This is one of those things where, unfortunately, both companies merging together with a significant amount of debt as they are, unfortunately, they're doing a lot of cost-saving measures that, unfortunately, are showing just how bad it is. And it's showing what is going to happen in these parks once they open up in the next couple of months. Like Kings Island, for example, over the past 2 years, they have added several new alcohol stations. Like, there is an alcohol station almost right in front of the train depot where there is a Coke Freestyle station in there, but that is open not even 25% of the time. Meanwhile, this beer station over here is almost always open. And that is the problem. Okay, I get alcohol like that sells. The main problem is when you're doing something like that, it is showing just how bad financially you're doing when you're putting in more alcohol stations than you are food stations and all of that. Oh, even something like the French bistro they have in the front of the park, right there at the corner by the Eiffel Tower, that got remodeled, and they added a bar in there. And then, not to mention, too, by Enrique's, which is their Mexican-style restaurant. They have a bar on the backside, which is fine. But the problem is you walk in front of Enrique's, you're going toward Coney Mall, at least during the regular part of the season, up to Haunt, let's say, and there is a beer cart essentially right there in the front. So later on, they changed that out for a food cart, which had like Dippin' Dots and pretzels and stuff like that. But that is the main problem. With all the alcohol they're putting in these parks, they're showing just how bad this situation is getting. Now, I can't say about other parks because I don't go to many Cedar Fair parks, just mostly because of distance and stuff like that. But if a lot of these parks are becoming like this, that is a bad sign to come. And unfortunately, that meme of 3 doors open with like blood trickling out and the Grim Reaper is about to knock on your door, unfortunately, that looks like is what's coming true. And unfortunately, I hate to say it like this, but be prepared for more ride removals over the next several months. There could be stuff in the works before some of these parks even open where corporate tells them this ride's not going to even open. So, unfortunately, this whole thing is becoming a bad situation. And unfortunately, with a lot of this, they're going to push it down on all of the park attendees. So no matter if you go to a Kings Island or Six Flags St. Louis or Six Flags Magic Mountain or Knott's Berry Farm, all of those parks I just mentioned, unfortunately, going to show just how bad this is. So unfortunately, you're going to see stuff like food prices raised, maybe not as many employees working, which is another thing. And this is going to show just how bad this company is financially right now. The other main problem with it is, at least the two parks in Ohio, Kings Island and Cedar Point, they posted stuff about employees for this year, and they stopped doing the legacy pay for, I know, at least Kings or Cedar Point. I don't know about Kings Island. And so they went from making $20 an hour to $14 an hour. And that's a huge blow, because from what I've seen, a lot of parents are like, my child's not going back. And these are kids who have put 2, 3, 4 years of their life into this park or into these parks, just for these parks to be like, nope, sorry. It is showing just how bad this is. And unfortunately, if you think stuff like one ride that may be down for, let's say, 25% of the season or here and there, this could get worse before it gets better.